Hi, this is Eva from Once Upon a Timeline, and today I'm going to discuss very recent changes in Chewbacca from Star Wars, as well as the famous painting known as The Scream. Okay, so first let's talk about Chewbacca. Now, there was a little article about him in Yahoo News recently, and the first thing I noticed was that he looked different to me. This nose that he has looks very different than I remember. There's now a big kind of shiny brown gray nose. I don't remember him ever having that. I remember him having a furry bump region with two slits between the fur, and that was his nose. He did not have this kind of a separate nose. Another thing I noticed was that after I started really looking at him, the fur up here is darker and it's way more brushed and way more coiffed than I remember it. This is just not quite the Chewbacca I remember. And another thing I noticed was this kind of a thing that he has slung over his shoulder here. To me, it used to look like weapons, but now it really looks more like weird strings of Christmas packages or something. It doesn't really, it could be decorative now. That's not what I remember it looking like. It looked more like ammunition or something before. So it used to be this all the same size, each one of these. Now there's all different little sizes and shapes. So it just does, it looks more pacifist to me now than it used to. Anyway, so there's a couple changes with him, and I was looking online about the history of Chewbacca getting a medal at the awards ceremony at the end of the movie, A New Hope. Now, this is kind of an older me, maybe at least a year ago, that people were talking about. And I also remember this. I remember Chewbacca getting a medal at the awards along with Luke and Han. And there was kind of a comic relief bit to it because Chewbacca had to bend down really low. And then in order for Leia to get the medal on his neck, and everybody was kind of laughing, even in the movie itself, in the scene, like, haha, isn't that funny? And there was a bit of a comic relief there at the end of that movie. But now that never happened. In the current reality, Chewbacca never got a medal. And there's some talk about how he kind of got the shaft. It's like Chewbacca prejudice or something. So I found this article here, why Chewbacca didn't get a medal at the end of the Star Wars New Hope. And this covers an interview by Mayhew, and Mayhew is the one who played Chewbacca. So this is kind of interesting. But what Mayhew says for this article, why Chewbacca didn't get a medal, I think it was one of two reasons. One, they didn't have enough money to buy me a medal. Or two, Carrie couldn't reach my neck, and it was probably too expensive to build a little step so that I could step down or she could step up and give me the medal. Okay, keep in mind this little step story here because this really makes no sense. But first of all, I just can't imagine that the medals cost more than 10 or 20 bucks. I mean, I've had medals made before. They don't have to be high quality because you won't see the imperfections on film. So I can't believe that they didn't just have a third one made. Once they've already ordered two, one more would not have been that much. So I don't buy that. I mean, it costs millions to do a film. You could afford a couple cheap props. Okay. Second one, Carrie couldn't reach my neck. Okay, that's ridiculous. Unless he's got some kind of back problem that he couldn't bow. And there's no statements to that effect here. I mean, there's no reason why even the tallest person couldn't bow their head down. I mean, if the Queen of England was there, you would bow your head down whether you were tall or not. It's just ridiculous. I don't even understand that excuse. All right, and then the step stool thing, that also is ridiculous, and we'll see why in a minute. Here's another little sentence I think is weird. As silly as it seems, the second idea that Carrie Fisher would not have been able to reach the actor's neck has a ring of reality to it. I mean, that's just a ridiculous sentence. I don't know what they're trying to say has a ring of reality to it. Anyway, this whole article is just like, no, I don't buy any of that. But the whole step stool thing, they couldn't afford to build a step. Okay, let's just look at the image of them receiving the medals. Okay, there are the medals. They're standing on steps. So, I mean, how could they say they couldn't afford to build steps? There's steps everywhere. They're already in the scene. Chewbacca's already standing on different steps than the other ones. So, I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever. Okay, a couple of changes I noticed here. Chewbacca here, you can see it a lot better. He's really two-tone now. He used to be all brown for me. Now he's got a bunch of gray areas and brown areas mixed. So that's different for me. Also, these medals, I really specifically remember them being round medals, not having these rectangles. I'm kind of like a round medallion fan, so it sticks in my head the shape of medals. I mean, I know it's probably not something that a lot of people remember, but I really remember these being beautiful round medallions, and this shape I don't care for. So to me, the medals have also changed. I suspect that there might be some changes in the clothing too, but I wouldn't swear to that one. And, there's already been other statements about older MEs, about C-3PO. You can see here he has that weird silver leg that nobody remembers. So there's a lot of these, but anyway, I just want to say it keeps changing. I don't think this Chewbacca change is that old. I think that he got that nose just recently. Okay, so the other subject matter is going to be about the famous painting, The Scream. All right, now here's what's interesting about this is that the painting, The Scream, is actually not called The Scream in this reality. It's called The Scream of Nature, which I think is very interesting. So everybody's just been calling it wrong or too lazy to call it properly in this timeline. A lot of people say that The Scream looks different for them, and it does for me. And but there's another interesting thing now that complicates it, is that The Scream is actually, there's two different oil paintings and two different pastels and a lithograph. And four of those was done by the same author, or the same painter, which is this guy, Edvard Munch, from 1893 to 1910. Okay, there are some people who say they remember this being a Van Gogh painting. I can't swear to that one. I do kind of think that, but I mean, I can't say that's an Emmy for me because I don't remember clearly enough. But I do remember it being one famous painting, not two, not all these versions. All right, so I'm going to go through the versions here. This is the first one, a pastel on cardboard. I guess I don't know what a pastel means. Does that mean that they're just using pencils or something? I mean, this is very simplistic looking drawing here. All right, so here's supposed to be the actual painting with oil paints that was done. This one's different for me for a lot of reasons. Mostly it's just a lot more simplistic and almost looks like a child could paint it. I mean, they have nice perspective here on the boardwalk, but other than that, it's just very simplistic. I remember the guy being a lot more tortured. His mouth was black inside and it was kind of twisty. He almost looks like surprised here, like he just saw something surprising, not that he's really horrified. He almost looks like, oh my God, look at that, kind of a thing, instead of horrified. And I remember a lot more detail on the boardwalk here. It just was a lot more sophisticated painting in my old time. I do not remember these boats back here, which you can barely see, but there are images of boats back here. I don't remember that at all. Okay, so then there's another pastel here. Again, it's very simplistic looking. None of these look like the one I remember. None of them. Another one, again, the mouth is not twisted and it is not black inside. Very elementary painting. It's hard to believe that this is supposed to be a great artwork. To me, it is just a very simplistic one. So anyway, so the main issues here is, a lot of people have been saying this has changed, but now it's two paintings, and it's called The Scream of Nature. And there's also a couple pastels done by the same painter, and there is a lithograph done by somebody else also. So there's a whole bunch of these now. I'm thinking that the Emmy might use this as an excuse for why none of them look like you remember. Oh, you're just confusing all the paintings, that kind of thing. But no, it used to be just one famous painting, not two or four. Anyway, this is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.